All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today is Friday, May 16th. If you were here yesterday on Thursday, you will know that Mr. McCloskey was in as a substitute. He was presenting a lot of information about D-Day, some of the artifacts that he had in his possession about that event, and kind of how it played out. I think a lot of the stuff that you probably would have taken away yesterday is probably the fact that he has a lot of memorabilia from D-Day that he kind of went to show you, and hopefully you got something from that. Now, today, we're going to pick up with a Holocaust discussion, which we started on Wednesday. Start with the bell ringer here. Do you believe that American civilians in the United States were given enough exposure to the topic of Nazi atrocities in the concentration and death camps during World War II? And why do you believe this is? So, you can pause now, get your answer, and then we can continue on with here. So take the pause, take the time here to get that answer down your bell ringer, and then once you get it done, I'm just bringing it into class next and I will get you credit. So pause. All right. So for the rest of you, what we're going to do is the pink worksheet, which I also checked today in class. So make sure you have that completed by the time you come in. I'll get you some credit for it as well. If you don't know where the pink sheet is, if you don't have one, go to my Canvas page. You can download one there. If I cancel it out, you can see it is up and ready to go at the bottom of my World War II section. It is going to be right here for the 14th. So you download this worksheet here, find the section for the 14th, and you're good to go. All right? And then you can see what we have for today's stuff here. Now, let's go back to this and talk about the questions. Now, first question here in the worksheet is prior to the beginning of World War II, what was the official policy of Nazi Germany? That policy was known as anti-Semitism. And the main goal of this purpose, at least the main goal of this particular ideology or policy is to get rid of most of the Jews that are in Europe that are what many of the Nazis think are in their way of having a pure and perfect world. So that's kind of what essentially is the purpose here. Now, this includes throughout Germany and most of Europe, especially those that are favoring the Nazi policies here of anti-Semitism. It includes discrimination at all levels of society, so schooling, work, housing. You were discriminated at the utmost highest regard, almost in the similar same ways that we saw with the Jim Crow laws here in the United States. All right. So, but anyways, with the this area, it just definitely had a big policy in terms of getting many Nazis in Germany to have a certain feeling about the Jewish citizens. Again, it's all something that is probably brainwashed into the Germans' minds. All right. Second question: where did most European Jews flee when they were asked to leave Europe from 1933 to 1937, and why did most countries deny them refuge? Well, most Jews fled to the United States, Latin America, and British ruled Palestine, which is now present-day Israel. But many of these countries denied them refuge because of the fact that the Great Depression made work more difficult to find for their own citizens, let alone bringing in more people that are going to compete for the same jobs. That's what many individuals in each of those countries did not want to see happen. So that's the sole purpose as to why many European Jews fled to the United States, Latin America, and British ruled Palestine because of this anti-Semitism, but oftentimes they're not even wanted there because of the fact that there's a lot of jobs that are competed for, and none of the countries wants to have more people competing for those jobs. It doesn't sit well with people that are going to vote in future elections. All right. So again, as we're going through this, if you want to pause through different parts of the video, please do. That way you can get these answers. Again, I'm not asking you to find all these answers and write them down word for word in your worksheet, but paraphrase them. Make sure that you have these answers and you can use it for future reference on study guides, on a test, or even for essays. So that stuff all works. All right. Number 3. What role did the Einsatzgruppen play in killing European Jews before the Wannsee Conference? Well, many people in the Einsatzgruppen were responsible for killing Jews as they were moved from town to town. They were mobile killing squads. They would find people they felt were undesirable, which included Jews, included homosexuals, included Catholics, included whoever they felt like was a threat to their future rule in Germany and also the rest of Europe. They would move out of town. They would have them dig their own burial, have them dig their own graves, or even also if they were able to find a ditch that they could just remove them and kind of hide them after they killed them really easily, they would take them to that and then shoot them and then push them down into that ditch. But most of the time, they killed them in mass graves as they traveled from town to town, They would kill these people that they thought were undesirable. Now, after the conference, there is a final solution to the Jewish problem, or Jewish question. And Hitler believes, and this is something that's taken up by most of the people at this time in Nazi Germany, that you have to round up the Jews from all around Europe, from wherever you take, and then you're going to ship them by rail to concentration and death camps, where they are either to be worked or they are to be exterminated. So, and a lot of you, I think, from your discussions in 8th grade, what you had and what you discussed, there's a lot of stuff that you can provide as evidence to support and visualize kind of what many of these Jewish citizens went through as they were captured and sent to these camps by cattle car. All right. So, but beforehand, it wasn't as an efficient sort of system that we had with the concentration death camps, but just mobile killing squads went from town to town killing these individuals as they went. So it's just kind of refreshing memory here of this stuff. Now, what was the response in the United States when word first got out regarding concentration and death camps for European Jews? And what did Roosevelt finally create to save those 200,000 lives? Well, the United States, mostly at the point of this time in the war, did not know too much about the Holocaust. Most of it was because most media sources and the newspapers and also the radios did not know a lot about it. Now, there were newspapers that were responsible for, and reporters, that were in the field during the war, that were following the front lines and kind of writing the stories of what's happening, interviewing soldiers, talking to civilians if they could get a translator, finding individuals that they could get the scoop on of the story and tell them what's happening. However, anything about the Holocaust that was found was not reported in the media, mostly because the United States did not want the American civilian population they didn't want their sympathy for these the Jewish citizens in these concentration camps to change their mentality about the war and about what the main overall goal is. The overall goal of the war is to not save these people from the camps, but to defeat Nazi tyranny altogether. So saving them becomes easier. So keeping it out of the media was important to make sure that Americans didn't have too much of a clue what was going on. And also, Congress doesn't do a whole lot to raise immigration quotas for fear of espionage. However, most of these people would not be spies, but the fact that they would be individuals that witnessed Nazi atrocities, and then they would publicly announce these particular events to the American people once they got here. That's something that probably Congress did not want to see happen. Now, FDR does create a war refugee board, is the second part of that question, against the objections of Congress. This is a major step in the right direction, most like an executive order that he passes to save 200,000 lives, citizens that are requesting to leave Europe, and they come to the United States as a result. One of the more famous families that is denied refuge from Europe into the United States is the Frank family. Otto Frank and Frank's father wrote countless letters to the United States, friends that he had in the United States asking for asylum, asking them to send a letter to U.S. government agencies to plead them for asylum, to plead them to be sent over as refugees. The United States denied them that access, and we know kind of the fate that the Frank family faced throughout much of the Holocaust. However, it saddens me seeing that, the Frank family doesn't have to go through that if we allow them as refugees. However, at the same time, but we probably do not know as much about the Holocaust today, if it wasn't for Anne Frank's diary, and also, what the experiences of other individuals that were not allowed to be brought in as refugees in the United States. So definitely some sad truths there to have, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that there were some people that were denied refuge because of the United States not wanting to get it out into the media. Our goal is to win the war, to defeat the Nazis. While we do that, we can save these people's lives, and that's exactly what Roosevelt wanted to do. And but also, as we save these individuals, he has them with the War Refugee Board coming across the Atlantic into the United States, and that's perfectly fine for his executive order. Now, last question. Which countries led the military tribunal to prosecute the Germans responsible for the crimes against of the Holocaust in their crimes of war? What were the results of the trial, and what wide-ranging idea came out of the Nuremberg trial? So first off, the four countries that were responsible were the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. The results of the trial were the idea that many head German officials were guilty of crimes against humanity and other war crimes. Half of these individuals, I believe there are 24 people that were put to trial in military tribunal. Half of them, 12 of them, were given the death sentence. Now, the wide-ranging idea that came out of these particular trials was the fact that you have to be held accountable for your own actions. This is a very important life lesson that you and only your actions alone are the ones that represent you and your family and whoever you're going by. Now, I can guarantee you a lot of these German officials ask the question and ask themselves, hey, we're following orders. Why is this fair? Why is this not fair? So they had their own ideas about these particular goals. But at the same time, I wanted you guys to know that this is a big statement made by the United States. Even though many of these men admitted they were following orders, you have made these actions. You followed through in these actions, specifically the leaders of these camps and the leaders of organizing this particular mass killing of religion, this act of genocide. These people were set aside and were found guilty. All right, so. But oftentimes, following orders is a perfectly reasonable explanation as to why you're not guilty. Because you're not the mass, you're not the planner, you're not the one that actually fulfills the duties and institutes these plans, but you're just following the orders because you feel like it's your duty at that time. All right. So, this is kind of what we have here with the video today. If you look on my Canvas page, my homepage I showed you here, if I go back, you can see that I have 2 videos. One is a liberation of concentration camp in terms of a dramatic perspective. This is from Band of Brothers, a series. This video, I believe, has a little link that says, it may seem offensive to others. You can watch it if you choose to. You don't have to hit the button, but if that video doesn't work out for you, this up here, I have another video from CNN which will work out. I'm positive it will work out for you because you can use it to see what one soldier's perspective was. I believe of the camp of Buchenwald is what they liberate. All right, so. I also have some examples up here. It's the accounts, these are memoirs of soldiers who liberated the concentration camps at Dachau, so you can read through this, see what they went through, and what they saw firsthand when they got to these camps. All right. So I have a lot of information here. We go through everything in class, but I do want to make sure this is all available to you so you can get caught up before we get back on Monday. And then, speaking of Monday, when we get back, we will be looking at the Pacific War. The United States now involved in the Pacific War. What are we going to do to try to stop the Japanese? And that's our goal. All right, everybody have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy March Madness. I'll see you on Monday.